social media up here.
Okay, and I think we're now. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Black Talk here on Extra Connections here on JLJ Media. Who am I? Who am I anyway? I am the JLJ of JLJ Media, James Lott Jr. That's right, kids. And we're bringing you every Friday. We're bringing you talks with various folks that I know about race. Yes, I talk about this stuff all year long, but because it is Black History Month, and y'all all know how I feel about that, I decided to amp it up a little more. So there's a live chat room open. So if you want to talk, comment, boo, hiss, whatever, you could do that. While you're here, though, I have over 45 shows. I'm a network, folks. Go ahead and check me out. Subscribe, hit the bell, find out what's going on at JLJ Media. I have shows from Star Wars to the soaps and everything in between. So please me. All right, my guests are two guys that I like. Two guys that I like, and they are Black men. Yes, they are. You can see them. And their melanin is darker, so I love it. Both of them are hosts, creatives. Some have done journalism. Some have done wrestling things. Some of them do other wrestling things. Some have done voiceover. Some have done football, basketball, whatever. But these are two guys that I admire, and I like them very much. And I brought them on to talk about this. Cedric Welton and Flobo Boyce. How you guys?
I'm great.
All right.
Okay.
I feel like that all those accolades are just Flobo. So like I'm just here.
Oh, what, brother? I'm talking about fan-sided, Daily DDT. We got a nice podcast. That's Welton, baby. Sheesh.
That is the answer. Said is the answer.
I heard voiceovers and I thought, whoa, I want to do that.
For now, you'll do that next. Don't worry.
Yeah, actually, if you want, I got shows. If you want to, I can get you on the board. I can get you on some stuff. That's what I do. So, anyways, so we're gonna talk. We talk about race in the various ways, but I always start my show with a list. So everyone, as you're coming in to the chat room, say hello. I'm going to read the list, and we're gonna read the list. Here we go. Colin Kaepernick, Bubba Wallace, Victoria Rowell, Monique, Charlie Pride, Muhammad Ali, Flip Wilson, Whoopi, Ruby Dee, Ozzie Davis, Barry Gordy, Diana Ross and the Supremes, Wilson Cruz, New Edition. The TV show Generations, Roots, the original miniseries, Sheila E., Patrice Rushen, Arsenio Hall, Julius Irving, Magic Johnson, Sammy Davis Jr., Mean Joe Green, James Earl Jones, Barry White, Jeffrey Osborne, Annie Lee, Beverly Johnson, Jane Kennedy, LA Mayor Tom Bradley, DeBarge, Pele, Noah's Ark, Soul Food, the TV series, Boys in the Hood, Curtis Blow, Basquiat, Darius Rucker, Nichelle Nichols, Chef from South Park, and Sylvester. Lisa and Colt Jam with Full Force, Martha Wash, Quincy Jones, Bayard Rustin, James Baldwin. Afro Sheen, Soul Train, Webster, Brian Bonds, Sasha Banks, my great-grandfather, Reginald Siki, my cousin, Ronnie Lott, my father, James Lott Sr., Lenny Kravitz, Roxy Roker, Jackée Harry, Halle Berry, Zendaya, Baby Dominic on Young and the Restless, Mixed-ish, Vanessa Williams, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and New York Mayor Bill de Blasio. Those are names this week. Those are the names this week that I'm reading off. Okay. Each of them has something to do with race on some level and some kind of either control, contribution, whatever. Those are all names I just read. So I'm gonna ask first Cedric, any names stand out? Anything hit you as I was reading them? And you go, ooh, oh, anything hit you?
Yeah, I mean, we bounced around a lot of names. Just because like you were going, they went from like serious names and I heard New Edition and like If It Isn't Love just jumped in my head in the dance for whatever reason. I don't know why.
Love a song.
Yeah, I love the song too. But yeah, like first thing I thought about I think one of the first three names was Colin Kaepernick, and it made me think people that stood up for something. And then we started going more into entertainment, sports, even politics, and it just made me think like, okay, these are all forms of Black excellence in some realm or another.
Like that. And Flobo Boyce, what were your thoughts?
I will tell you right now, I opened tabs of people I didn't really know, and those are Reginald Seekey, James Baldwin, and Victoria Roll.
Raul.
Yeah, but everyone else was kind of the same thing. It was like, oh yeah, they're famous for this. I could see their faces. I could see their contribution. Bill de Blasio threw me off, and I was like, what? But that took me a moment to understand his contribution. That's pretty cool that it doesn't have to be a single way to contribute to the culture, but everyone contribute their own way.
Yeah, I threw me at the end on purpose because he's a mixed race family. Yes, each of these, they stand out. Original Seekey, of course, is my grandfather, who was written out of the wrestling history books, folks. He was one of the first Black wrestlers who was Muslim back in the turn of the century. And this gentleman found out his story recently, and last year wrote a 25-page article on him. And it was brought to my attention because that's my great-grandfather. And I knew he was a wrestler because I had pictures of him when he was wrestling, but he wrestled over in Bulgaria and stuff. And he was a huge hit, but they kept him out of the books. And so he's finally getting his due. So even though I don't watch wrestling, I'm not into wrestling, everybody leave me alone, it actually is my family.
Everybody leave me alone.
Leave me alone. And of course, my cousin Ronnie Lott, of course, 49ers, Kansas City Chiefs, all that, and football. And my father, he went through a lot of things, being a light-skinned Black man in the 70s, 60s, and 70s, trying to get jobs, and taught me a lot about myself in terms of what I would put up with and stuff. Do you look up to Black performers, politicians, entertainers? Like, we all like people, but do you actually look up to any? Anyone can go first if you want to go first.
You want to go first, Flo?
Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah. So for me, it's kind of interesting because I hate to say it, I don't say race. That's impossible, right? You can't, like, everyone is their colorblind. I always say whatever. But I do try to look at entertainers first, so what they're doing. But it's kind of interesting. I do gravitate towards people that look like me more. One of the names on your list was Bubba Wallace. And even though I went to school in the South, I didn't quite understand NASCAR. But when it came down to pick a driver, I was like, well, I'll pick a Bubba. Why not? You know what I mean? And getting into that representation doesn't really matter. Frank Thomas is one of my childhood heroes in the baseball game being like the
yes,
culture.
Yep.
In the baseball game, I love Frank Thomas. Because back when the leagues were split, there was really no one that would come and challenge the Yankees. It was like how Frank Thomas was. He was called the Big Hurt for a reason. So that was the first time I remember saying, oh my gosh, there are people who are strong and powerful that look like me. And as someone who was bullied a lot growing up, I felt The Rock in the WWF at the time was like exuding confidence. Looked a certain way, smelled a certain way. You could tell to the TV screen, wore the gold chains. And those are things you're like, oh man, I really want to be that. They were aspirational in that way. But I do try to keep myself open to having role models of all races. But every so often, it's like, yo, he's Black. I'm in.
It's funny. Cedric, what do you think about that?
Piggybacking off that, it's just naturally to gravitate to people who look like you in any field. As far as looking up to like performers and entertainers, not so much. I admire them. I enjoy seeing the work ethic to get to a certain level in a sport, things like that. I would say the people I admire do the same things that I do in this field that look like me. So if I see analysts on ESPN like your Clinton Yates, your Bomani Jones, Stephen A. Smith, like those guys are quote unquote like my heroes because they're doing it at a high level and just grinding out so much content, covering the sports. Rob Parker's a good friend of mine. Like these people, when I go to conventions and stuff, and they're so dope. They're such dope people, always trying to help up the next generation, stuff like that. And they treat you like a true peer. They don't act like they're up here. And I look at them like Superman and Batman because they're doing the exact things I want to do. Those are people I admire. And of course, in sports, everybody had their favorite athletes. For example, like it's All-Star Weekend. I think everybody at one point, like Michael Jordan, I loved Allen Iverson. I loved everything about him. I had grades throughout high school and college. Loved everything about his attire, changing the game and bringing the culture to the NBA. As far as wardrobe, those are the things that I admire. People that really go in and trailblaze something for a path of other people to come behind them.
I know you guys are both. I'm kind of like you both at some level. I'm a generation of before you, so we didn't have much. I mean, we were starting to get people. Muhammad Ali was somebody I really looked up to because he was someone who he had charisma, And he was bold, and he could back up. He could fight. I mean, that too. But I just liked his. We used to see him on TV all the time. Worldwide World of Sports on ABC when I was growing up, and there were only 3 channels, folks. So we didn't have cable or anything. It hadn't been invented yet. And I see him, and I know for me, I gravitated towards him because he was just like this charismatic. Wow, how pretty he was! I thought, that's me. So I always admired him, but I always kept a healthy distance when it came to making them my idols versus I like their work. Right. I've always kind of like, I maybe grew up in LA. I just knew that too. Like, kind of just that people were real. Also, people have, we had friends who were in the business, and so I kind of knew that they're just regular folks most of the time. But there are folks I really did. I admired Prince. That was somebody I always admired because he was promoting, am I black or white? Am I straight or gay? And all these songs. He was so like, I never forget. I always tell a story that makes me laugh. I remember watching turn on MTV one night. It was a late night back in the 80s. And this video comes on. And the silhouette, you think it's a chick. Like, seriously, stiletto, tight pants, lace top, hair, the hat like this. And I'm thinking it's like Vanity or somebody. And it's Prince. And Prince comes out, he's singing, I think it was Automatic or some song, whatever songs. And he was singing, looking like that. That's how he's going to basically fuck your woman. And it worked. And it was like so weird. I'd never seen black guys like that. Mm-hmm. I just had never seen that. And but it worked. And I remember all my girlfriends around me in high school were in love with him. They thought he was just the hottest thing on earth. Or it was always Prince or Michael. It was always back then in the 80s. It was like Prince or Michael. And like both these guys were so not what I thought. We're not the black guys I grew up with. Let's just say that here in the hood. Mm-hmm. So I kind of learned that we had different kinds of black folks. So I always kind of admired them, but I never really took any of them. So if something happens, I'd be sad. Oh, I don't know about that. But I never really fell apart. Right. Seems because we do seem to idolize people. That seems to be a natural thing, right?
I mean, yeah, I think Seth hit the nail on the head on the Jordan versus Iverson thing. You know what I mean? There is to be said about someone that finds a way to ingrain themselves in a culture and to be that poster person like Jordan. And it says another thing, but complimentary of someone being themselves, even at the expense of what they think the brand should be, like Allen Iverson. And so that's saying no one appreciated both, but they offer two different sides of a self-expression, one being able to be an ambassador and one being able to say, I myself at the highest level, which is both things are aspirational.
That's good. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Well, is it easier in sports than in entertainment to like really like? I'm wondering if that's something. They're both entertainments. Sports is entertainment, right? Right, Cedric? Sports is entertainment.
Yeah, and I think you just hit the nail on the head when you're talking about Prince and Michael. Like, in a world where society wouldn't look at those things as your traditional forms of like being masculine, but that confidence just exuded in everything they do. So you naturally gravitate to that aura just because they are being authentically themselves in front of the masses. And it's like, this is how you accept me. So yeah, I think naturally in any arena, it can be in sports, media, television, anything. Where you truly exude authenticity, I think you naturally gravitate the tribe you're supposed to gravitate.
Yeah. Hello, folks in the chat room. Mel is from Brooklyn. Used to watch over my grandmother.
Oh, what's up, man? Brooklyn in the house.
Hey, how you going?
And Brooklyn's Thomas in the building. We built the
building. He's in the building. We're all Brooklyn. We're two of us are Brooklyn people. Okay, so I want to actually, something you said, Cedric, that actually I was reminded of. When I was growing up, there was only Brian Gumbel. And in the hosting world, right? And then maybe Stuart Smith came at some point. May he rest in peace. But it was all white folks. And so like my people that I look to as hosting, whether it's Larry King, Donahue, those kind of people, Oprah on some level, of course, Barbara on some level. And they're all legends, obviously. But I thought Brian Gumbel, I remember he got lots of flack for sounding white, in quotes. Being light skinned, and I grew up being told I talked white, that kind of stuff. But it's funny, but I was still looking to him in the entertainment world because he was somebody who looked like me. I mean, he sounded like me. So it's really funny you said that we kind of looked at people, you're looking for people in, especially when it comes to the commentating and analyst side. I mean, in wrestling and sports, are there not a lot of black folks doing that? I don't know. I don't know. And
in the commentating space?
Commentating.
Wow, that's tough. I'd have to say, not really. I mean, you have Byron Saxton right now, but me growing up, not really. You'd have just traditionally your same rotation of people. That's not a big space that you traditionally see somebody interviewing in. I'm not sure if that's because people traditionally go the athletic route. Like I know right now, black wrestling is at an all-time high, and not just in the ring with performers, but like referees too. Like you see it spreading around. But as far as the actual personality that's not doing the athletic stuff, growing up, I didn't see much of that at all.
Yeah, you basically got one. If it wasn't Byron Saxton, it was Percy Watson before him, and if it wasn't Percy Watson, it was Jonathan Coachman before him. So there's like one or two or three or four. So it wasn't a lot. And when you did, you're kind of like, cool. But typically, and this is another issue altogether, I'm not sure if I'm jumping ahead, it was play for laughs, right? Percy Watson was a guy that was a book football guy, but he wore like white glasses with no lenses in them. Or Jonathan Coachman came out, it was seen as effeminate. Every time he was interviewing someone, it was always played up. Not to say I didn't like it. I enjoyed it. I was entertained. I was sports entertained. Mm-hmm. But when you look at even Byron Saxton, this guy's like yoked to like mountain high. He's like stretching on the suit with like, like duct tape. But every so often on the commentary, Corey Graves, his broadcast colleague, is like, come on, Saxton, shut up, Saxton. And it's always that thing as well.
The butt of the jokes.
The butt of the joke. So like, I mean, it's good to see someone on screen. That's like way more than not being on screen, but it makes you wonder, I mean, is it like you knock down a door, or is it like putting a foot through a window? Like,
here's the thing. Okay, here's something. This leads right into something. No, see, Flobo, you're fine, Flobo. You're okay.
Okay.
You're a smart Negro. Here's the thing. Is it okay? Because we have because representation matters. We all say that. We know it's true, right? Representation matters. That's not even a question, right? That's not even a question. But the type of represent, I can't get the word out. The type of representation, does that matter to you guys? Like, is it like if someone comes on and they're black and it's played for laughs? If it isn't, if it's in Living Color versus Law and Order SVU, like, does it matter when we have so few? We know it's not equal right now. It's not equal. It's not equal. Does it matter? Is it okay that we have the old Step and Fetchits, the Chitlin Circuit stuff, the Tyler Perry, all this? Everybody's, but he's employing black folks, so you can't get mad at Tyler too much. He's employing black folks,
right?
Or should we go to Shondaland, where she has everybody mixed up, black, white, everybody all together? Like, I just wonder. That's a question I didn't ask my last panel, which I wanted to run out of time. Which is that I just wonder, representation matters, yes, but does the type of it matter?
Yeah, I think that I think you're going to get criticism from either side of the spectrum, regardless. But representation is very important. I like the Tyler Perry versus Shondaland thing you just said. And I think all that criticism comes from within the culture, because we want to be viewed in a certain light. Like, it won't come from outside, but it'll come within, because we want everyone striving for perfection in their own race, and we want to see ourselves in a certain light. And just talking about wrestling, it made me think of Booker T, who is like the straight Harlem dude in WCW. I loved Booker T. He was a hard, rugged dude, made his way to the top. He was literally the last champion before the company went under. And he goes up to WWF, and he's pretty much a comedy stick. He's getting chased and beaten up by people.
I remember that.
I hated King Booker. I hated it. I hated the gimmick and the stick and all that. But as an adult, I can appreciate it, because he got his screen time and he was able to adapt. He was able to show his range. So I think when you look at like entertainment, yes, it'll be criticized, but people are showing their range in different ways. And like, I mean, I hate to say it this way, the check is still clearing. But so like, yeah, there'll be, I think people will criticize either way. I don't think we'll ever avoid that, truthfully.
Well, Cedric, I want to come back to you again for this, because this is a good point. Now you're an adult. Now you're a grown-up, Cedric, and you have been in the business in some forms of it, right? So we're overall in some forms of the business, right? We're in the business. But I'm saying, now that you see this, you probably see things a little differently. So now, are you seeing it differently now? As, like you said, I see what he had to do. Where you were a kid, you didn't like it, and now you saw, you're like, this sucks, man, like, whatever, and criticizing. Do you now see it differently now?
Yeah, I do, because like, and I think Flo knows this on Twitter, and wrestling Twitter at least. one of the biggest things that floats around is like, just give it time.
Yeah.
Just give it time. Let's see what happens here. And I think if you have that lens with things, most times, more times than not, it works out in the favor that you were hoping for. I don't know if you see all this memorabilia in the back, but like I got New Day everything. And in the beginning, it was like very much like what the hell is this? Like they're mocking the black church, and I didn't like that because I kind of grew up in the church a little bit, so I didn't really like it at first. But then like 5-6 years later, they're one of the biggest acts ever, probably the biggest merch movers in the company ever, at least from a black athlete perspective. So it's like you give things time, and then who's number one?
Oh, Roman Reigns.
No, I'm talking about for a black athlete.
Oh no, New Day. You're right.
Okay. So yeah, if you give things time, even in entertainment, like this storyline might turn to this, or even outside of this role that they played here, it might lead to a bigger role that they were hoping to aim, and like now they're in an even bigger spotlight. So everything has its own path.
So Flobo, I would say as I gotten older, my perspectives have shifted a bit. I'm a little less judgy as I was when I was, when you're young, you judge everything. Like that sucks and you're suck and everything. But I have and one of my famous stories I've told before on shows is my father was light skinned. Many times he could pass. It's something else. And I used to judge that at first as a kid, going, well, how can you do this? But he had kids and mostly he had to take care of stuff. And now it's like, as I grew up and had kids and took jobs that I hated to make money so I can buy diapers, I totally started going, oh, now I kind of get it. And it wasn't that he was doing it to be against his own race. And we talked about it later. It was more of he used what he had to get ahead at a time when we couldn't get ahead.
Absolutely.
And so now as an adult, I'm less judgy when I look back on it now. Not saying it would have been my path to go. And there's other folks who didn't go that path. I'm just saying in terms of, like you said, that's why I like your analogy about Booker T. Like, they're just now a little older. Now I kind of get how this kind of works. If you want to stay in the business, if you want to have checks clearing. So,
well, 2 points. One about the seriousness versus comedy. As on the comedy side, I understand that comedy is an art form, and we just have timing and rhythm because that's the way we are. And a lot of times when characters are brought up, it's a way to ease us into any kind of program, which is unfortunate, but it happens to all the minorities but black people and black performers are kind of disproportionately looked that way. Like I look back at like Jaleel White. I mean, everyone will look at him as Steve Urkel for now until the end of time, but to do a character that nuance for that long says a lot about his art form. And I was with Cedric when Booker T, even though he's from Houston, being called Harlem Heat is clicking and be like, I'm King Booker, and had an accent and had his finger up. I was like, what's going on? But that got King Booker the world championship on a bigger circuit. So it's like Black Eyed Peas when they added Fergie. It's like, well, it's not the same, but they're doing more shows now. So I guess
my hump.
Yeah. But on the real side of it, my dad is also light skinned. And my mom is obviously darker. I'm in the middle. And when he came to the United States in the 70s, New York was a different place, from the West Indies. And not only did he got ostracized from white people because he was an immigrant, he got ostracized by black people. Because if you remember that time, the black diaspora were more black Americans than black Africans. And the Caribbeans came, my parents came in 75, but the Caribbeans came in 83 when Pan Am bought all of the airlines and from all the international airlines and lower the prices. That's why a lot of Caribbean people live in Miami, Boston, New York. Okay, whatever. Anyway, I'm going off on a nerdy tangent. So the thing about my dad is he worked for the Metropolitan Transit Authority, buses and subways. And people 2022 ask, why are the trains so bad in New York? It was because the money back in the 70s and 80s were all mobbed up. It was all the family, all the outfit that would skim off the revenues of token fares. Not making it up, you can look it up. But the thing is, to get to the higher level of the MTA, you had to be Italian. And there was no way at the time, before having jobs being equal opportunity, you had to be Italian to be in that circle. So my dad didn't pretend he was Italian, but he didn't say he wasn't. And he learned to talk like this. He's like James Earl Jones when I go home. And he would go and learn things like golf or learn how to cook stuffed shells growing up. And I would ask him why. And he never said anything. But as an adult, I go, well, look at this. You're coming from a different country. You got a wife who's dark-skinned in a different country. People think you're in a biracial relationship to begin with. You try to provide for a family, do what you got to do because those checks have to clear because you got 2 kids at home. So I will never tell my dad, you're a hero, because I really should. But at the same time, it's like, now as I got older, I'm like, yo, you have to do what you have to do to provide.
You do. Cedric, were you aware of your blackness?
At
Whatever that means,
younger
whatever
age?
whatever that means to you. Were you always aware that you're black?
I would say, yeah. I grew up in Long Beach and I always went to school in the Carson area. So these are predominantly Black schools. Honestly, I don't think in high school, I think we only had maybe one white student. I remember we called him Sunshine. He played on a football team with us.
We had
literally,
we had like 4, and 2 were related. And 2 were related.
Yo, Cedric, what was her football name? I'm curious.
Oh, he's laughing. Yes.
I didn't have a. I didn't have a football name. I had a track name. I had a track name. I didn't have a football name.
What's the track name? What's the track name then? What was it?
It was something stupid, and I don't think it latched on. There's this kid that they used to call Woodgie, and I used to do high jump with a guy they call Pootie, like Pootie Tang. They started calling me Wooga. I don't know what it means, but it was like a small group of people that called me that. So yeah, I never cared to define what it means. I just rolled with it. So I was like, yeah.
Oh, mine was Mini Fridge after Jerome Bettis. They call me Mini Fridge in football, but that was it.
but yeah, to your point, yeah, I cognitively already knew my blackness because I grew up in that environment my whole life. I don't think I ever got like the reverse, or the culture shock, if you would, until I went to Arizona State, where it was like, oh, it's just me in here. Like literally, like in my dorm, I was like the only one, and everybody wanted to be very conversational with me because I look different. But yeah, I'd be in class and it would like be just me. And that's the only time it really hit where I was like, oh, okay, I didn't know this type of world existed. So
when you go out and about, are you like the rest of us? Where you like, when I go to an event that's not a black event, I'm like, okay, where's the next person of color? Like I always look. I survey the room. I'm all ding, 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 ding. There's a black person. Like I just want to see if I'm the only. I always want to see if I'm the only person. I don't know if you guys do that.
I literally did that a couple of nights ago at a networking event because like they're trying to see if I want to join this business, and I want to see like, well, how many black people are actually doing this? Just cognizant, just like naturally just doing that. And then I think everybody knows about like the internal code you have that when you're in a place and you see another black person, you give them the nod up, and it's like, all right,
nod.
If something goes down, like I'm acknowledging you for help, and vice versa.
Yes, totally. Oh my God, totally. Flobo, save you too.
Universal, man. It is crazy. So I went to, my undergrad was in the South. I was in North Florida in a town called St. Augustine, which is really one of the strongholds of the KKK. That's where Martin Luther King was arrested. I went to a school that was 2,200 students. 25 of us were not white. And so it's funny because there's actually a podcast named after this, but the nod is universal. It's like, huh? Because you don't know, like, small things like, yo, where can I get a haircut, or where are the spices? You know what I'm saying? You need to know. You need to know, man.
Yeah,
for real.
And I didn't realize this till I got older. Like until like older generations would do it to me when I'd be walking around Arizona. They'd be like this. I'm like, why is everybody so damn friendly? And then it caught up. Like, oh, like, all right, okay.
Yeah. It's the acknowledgments. We've been doing it for years. We had handshakes, everything back in the day, all kinds of stuff. I watch you guys because you guys again are a generation after me, and I watch the ones after you guys too. And I'm just very curious to know. I make jokes, and Flo always knows it because everybody knows this about me. I'm blackly black. I always want black. Everything. But I'm other things too. And actually, my DNA test came back actually, and I'm 100% that bitch, of course. No, I'm that too. No, but I'm actually almost half white actually inside because I come from a mixed racial family. But I always talk about that. But I say to you guys, when you're out and about, I guess just being regular black men. I mean, how much do you think about your blackness? I think about it all the time, just about because I'm just conditioned that way. It's not a burden or anything. When I leave my house, I know I'm black. I just wonder, do you guys? Does it still happen, or does it happen less? I don't know.
For me, I don't think about it until I do. Like I don't think about breathing But if I walk down the street and someone locks up their car, where it's like, bro, I don't want your Kia, bro. But then I know, oh, they're doing it because I'm black. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I don't go up there. I'm like, I'm a black man. But when I go outside, he'll go, oh, they're crossing the street, or people cops slow down, or people ask me, or do I get the nod? I go, oh yeah, I'm part of that tribe. All right, what's up? That's cool.
That trick.
I don't say it's not in the front of my mind. Like I inherently know. And I think I have friends of all different creeds and whatnot like that. They know like my personality really well. So it doesn't really get me into like I'm in a place where like I'm literally outnumbered or the minority, or like it's like really noticeable where it's like, okay. And I tend to not code switch. I try not to. So like if I've worked in corporate America a lot, and like I'm always just me, this monotone dude. I'm like Tim Duncan. You'll see emotion every now and then, but like I think people expect you to be rah rah and stuff like that. But nah, just until it's like it's forced for me to notice. I don't unless
I hate. I'll tell you. I'm gonna ask you a question shortly. It's a good question. I'm gonna ask you a question shortly. I hate when someone assumes when they don't know me yet and they get extra familiar and talk to me a certain way. And you know what I'm talking about when I say talk to me a certain way, thinking that must be the way I talk otherwise. Now, I did grow up in the hood in Inglewood. I did grow up and partially in New York. So I do speak that way sometimes with my friends, but I don't need anybody knowing all that. Because I'm like you said, I'm very much myself, and Flobo knows about me. I'm very much me. Wherever I go, I'm me. I'm just whatever that is, right? Whatever that is. But I hate when someone comes to me and starts shucking and jiving with me, and I'm like, I don't shuck and jive. I kind of almost don't want to on purpose because they're trying so hard sometimes.
Yeah, that exists.
It does. That bugs the crap out of me. Okay, so the question. This goes with the whole C representation. This person who asked is white. She's white. What did you all think when watching TV? And most of the families did not look like you, or commercials as well. Which I by the time you guys came along, I'm thinking there was more than when I was a certain age. When I was coming to the 70s, there was hardly anything. I'm thinking you guys must have more, no?
Like, were we talking like sitcoms and stuff like that?
Sitcoms, TV shows, commercials. I feel like, you guys had more representation on TV, didn't you?
I grew up with watching like TGIF and stuff like that. And honestly, I mean, there's the other programs. Like I'm weird. I used to watch like Gilligan's Island and stuff like that. And I Love Lucy too.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think there was more representation when I growing up. But there were also like, I think maybe there's more today. I won't say that, but I also grew up around like black sitcoms, like true black sitcoms, like that existed for me growing up.
You guys had Martin. You guys had My Wife and Kids. Yeah, there were a lot of things that came up in the 90s. I mean, there was a whole UPN and WB started, so there was a huge, and Fox. There was a huge resurgence of black, the Wayans brothers, all that stuff was happening.
Even black cartoons like Static Shock and things like that.
Yeah, I think you guys had it better than I did. I mean, for me, and grew up, I was a kid in the 70s, and then grew up in the 80s a little bit too. But in the 70s, it was mostly the old school. I was watching Partridge Family, Brady Bunch, and all these kind of things, and they didn't look like me. We just didn't see. When the Jackson 5 cartoon came out, that was big deal because I had a fro bigger than this, just like they did. Their noses were wide before they did all their nose jobs. And a cartoon looked like black folks. Yes, the Jacksons have had nose jobs, folks. You didn't know that, they did. But I'm saying when we saw them, and Fat Albert, so it's about Cosby, and that's all this Trident thing there too. But both those things for me was the first time we all watched, and then we didn't have anything else. I mean, it really wasn't. I mean, there was a Jefferson Good Times, and that was it. But literally, that was it in the whole 70s.
Flip Wilson.
We had two, but then I'm saying we had him. He was a big deal. He was a big deal. Sammy Davis Jr. was a big deal. We see him on TV. But again, that's not as much as you guys had in the 90s or 2000s or today. There's a lot more than it was. We really didn't have it. We just didn't. We were forced to watch. We had Sanford and Son. We had Chico and the Man. We had a couple of those, but it was more like they were all kind of like flukes. I mean, it wasn't until the Cosby Show came out in '84 that we felt like there was something happening in a different world and all that. That was the first time. And I was an adult by then. I was almost out of high school by then. So I mean, but back in the '70s,
that's when the corner started turning.
Yes, it started turning. So I feel like you guys had to do it.
I don't quite agree with that. I understand where you're coming from. For me, I always felt it was cyclical. That's just been and please, if you're out in the chat, because we're seeing a lot of people bring in their comments. I appreciate you guys. Thank you, Texas Ranger, for the question. It was like there was every time business slows up, that's when diversity comes out. It's always we come out with things. Well, oh, we're losing money. Bring out the Negro stuff. Like I always tell people this question: why did the Negro Leagues integrate with baseball? Not because they thought racism was wrong. It was because the Negroes were bringing in more money. Or when after the Vietnam War, when confidence in the movies had dipped, came blaxploitation films in the 70s or hood films in the 90s. So when I was a young kid, a lot of the content was white, which I didn't really mind or care about. Yes, I remember the mid-90s resurgence. I remember Negro Night on Fox. You got Newark on the cover at 9 p.m. Like, oh, bang, bang, blink, yoba, oh, snap. But for me, it was only pandering when you saw a white cast having one black friend in season 4. The example I used in chat was Friends. Like you're supposed to be in New York City and you don't have any black friends at all, and you have one black character in season 4. That's when it stuck out. But I wasn't watching step by step, being like, "Yo, we're all the Negroes in Wisconsin. I feel this is messed up. Representation needs to be neat." Like I was never that militant. But yeah, I think that compared to 3 channels and trying to find something, overall, it's gotten better. But I do think it was dips in between then.
Yeah, I still stand by my 70s thing. I mean, I was there. I mean, it wasn't, it wasn't enough. We didn't. I'm like, I'm talking about the movies and that kind of, that's something, because you asked about TV and commercials. There weren't a lot of blacks in commercials. We had what's her name? We had Tom Bridges. We had Little Kim Fields doing the Mrs. Butterworth commercials. And we had Ronnie Ali Rippey, who did the, was it Burger King or whatever those commercials. That's all we had. I'm saying comparative to all the other white kids on television. Everybody knows, hey, Mikey, he likes it. Everybody knows who he is. He's a white dude. He was a white kid. And he was very popular. It's like, we only had a few. I'm saying, I just remember, it's like it got better later. And I say, so I'm going from my childhood, I loved Bewitched. I had a crush on Samantha Stevens. I mean, some blonde chick. That was just exactly. She had the belly button.
I was gonna do the Dream of Genie.
Also, Bionic Woman. I mean, all the chicks I like. Well, Wonder Woman, of course. Later, we found out she's half Latina, so that's a different story. But at the time, Linda Carter, no one knew she was half Latina. That was not known. No one knew that at all. Linda Ronstadt, nobody knew she was Mexican. Nobody knew that. That was not marketed that way. These were white chicks. And I kept saying, Linda Carter got some hips. Something going on down there. I don't know what's going on. But turns out later, we find out she's half Latina. So I'm just saying, it's for us, it really was deliberate. It was hidden. And on TV and commercials, I would say that. Then I feel like later.
Commercials more so, I'd say.
Yeah, commercials. O.J. Simpson did the Hertz commercials in the 70s. I remember that. He was always running to get somewhere, the juice. Knew what happened to him later. But that was like another, and then Bill Cosby and the Pudding Pops and all that stuff. There's only a few images I can name, and that's it. And besides Soul Train was the one thing every Saturday morning we all got together to watch and see what they were wearing, how they were dancing. I was a big dancer. I was always a dancer. And then on Monday morning, between classes or on breaks, we were all trying to do the dance steps. I mean, that was Soul Train was the one thing that kind of unified. Like I mentioned, Afro Sheen, Ultra Sheen Cosmetics. It was all that you didn't see that. That was like so black. It was so black, that morning thing. So I don't know if you guys had that experience on TV.
I have a bad experience. Soul Train was a sign that it was time to do chores. So growing up was like, oh damn, it's Soul Train time. So I'm scrubbing the floors. Dora Cornelius, why Dora Cornelius?
Soul Train. That's crazy. I mean, Cedric, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I remember the commercials the commercials were directly marketed towards a certain audience. And you see that changing now on how they market commercials to more diversity, more diverse couples, things like that. growing up, I just remember really from what I was allowed to watch. I just remember like watching black sitcoms. I watched black sitcoms like Martin with My Family and Live in Color. I used to watch boxing with my dad and stuff like that, or like Family Matters, Fresh Prince, things like that. And then like, so it never really hit me like that to where I can be very granular on it. On top of that, I went to like a really black school. Like they made us sing "I Believe I Can Fly" every assembly. So like that's was like how I grew up. So it never really hit me that like there was this alternate universe, if you would, outside of Carson, California, that just where so much diversity existed.
That makes sense. Okay, so now I'm going to read. Time goes by fast. I mean, race talk goes by fast. Okay, now I'm going to read another list.
Oh Lord, we're wrapping this up already.
It's in red. The first list was in white paper, and red is in red paper.
Colored paper, gotcha.
And colored paper of color. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Okay. Again, I'm just reading names, and whatever you feel, you feel. Okay. The Bee Gees, Tina Marie, the Beastie Boys, Hall & Oates, Wendy and Lisa, Elton John, Boy George and Culture Club, George Michael, Lisa Stansfield, Adele, Sam Smith, Celine Dion, Anastasia. Mad TV in Living Color, William Shatner as Captain Kirk, Eminem, Rick Astley, Madonna, the book White Fragility, It's Free to Be You and Me, The Electric Company, Sesame Street, Phil Donahue, Ricky Lake. Prince Harry, Marky Mark, New Kids on the Block, Thomas Jefferson, Abe Lincoln, President William Jefferson Clinton, John Holmes, Jeff Stryker, David Bowie, Paul Simon, the Law and Order franchise, Kenny Rogers, Hootie and the Blowfish, Sting, Giorgio Moroder, Tropic Thunder, Macklemore, Different Strokes, Webster. Secrets and Lies, the movie, The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison, Pat Boone, Elvis Presley, The Rolling Stones, Blondie, Kevin Costner, Steven Spielberg, Crayons, Gay White Men, The Wigger, Izzy Azalea, Dusty Springfield, The O.J. Simpson Trial, The Rodney King Trial, and New York Central Park. That's that list. First thoughts?
This list took me on a ride. What do you say, Ced?
Yeah, that kind of went up and down. Like it started off with entertainers like I rock with Hall & Oates, the Bee Gees, Mad TV took me back. Yeah, it just seemed like a wild ride of entertainment moments, like Crayons. I'm not sure what I was supposed to think about.
I'll explain that. I'll explain Crayons. The actual box of crayons. I'll explain that. But no, your thoughts.
It just made me think about the different entertainers. That's what stood out to me, the moments on television, things like that.
Okay. Flobo Boyce.
So I thought you're going to give us a list of people and places and things that are not necessarily Black, but, and I hate to use the phrase because this opens up a can of worms, are invited to the proverbial cookout, right? But there are some things that also divided us as well, like the OJ trial was one of those. And I remember, I hope it's not the case you mean, but the Crayola controversy in the late 90s, where it was like, we need more shades of beige. No,
it is. That's what it is. Flobo got it. Flobo picked it up. That's why Flobo and I are friends. He picked it up.
Maybe you'll go, ooh, I remember that at all. That was a cool
I remember that. No, seriously. That's why Flobo got it. So now I was going to explain that. That's go ahead.
Blue White Soul, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I got.
There was a thing about that. It was because I was an adult by then with kids, and then there was this whole thing about the crayon colors in the crayon box. You know, they have the 64, the classic 64, and then they have the smaller box, or whatever, and they were. It's just so funny to me because in the 90s, they were trying to be woke, I think, on some level. You know, it was very much we're doing Black English now. We have our own English. It's called Black English, and that didn't fly, obviously. A lot of Black folks, like I said earlier, a lot of Black folks got upset, saying, no, it's not called Black English, it's hood talk or whatever. That's all the story, Ebonics, like that. But also crayons, Band-Aids. There was a whole thing about Band-Aids being more flesh. Like, why aren't they like our flesh color? Something I never thought about before. Somebody said that once. I go, that's true. Why not? You know. And there was lots of things that were starting to be geared towards Black folks. They were trying to maybe overcompensate. I don't know. It's just very interesting. So many things I read were people who actually were invited to the cookout, If you know what the cookout is, people, that's when Black folks accept you. We didn't call it cookout back then. We just called it, you get your Black card. You're part of the group. Tina Marie is Black to me. When I say Tina Marie, I don't even think of her as, I forget she's white, actually, to tell you the truth. Because I grew up with her so entrenched with the whole Rick James and that family. And people like Hall & Oates. I mean, literally, we know they're white, but they're played on Black radio. A lot of these artists I just read to you, like Lisa Stansfield, George Michael, they're all played on Black radio. They went on Soul Train. They're everywhere. So it's kind of funny. So it's okay to have white folks in the cookout? Do they need to prove themselves like on some level? And a lot of these folks did prove themselves to be great. And
that's a very controversial thing right now with the handing out of invites to this imaginary cookout.
Yes.
I would rather not be in charge of the guest list because I know it's so controversial. I don't want to say who is invited. I think rather back, who is not invited. I think that's an easier thing to point out than who is.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Well, so I brought Macklemore, who got lots of dissing later, but somehow Eminem and the Beastie Boys very well accepted in the Black community.
So that's why, because he won that Grammy.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, but if he didn't win the Grammy, it would have been like, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't say that's it. Which wasn't his fault.
He won the Grammy over albums that were entirely better than his.
Yeah,
but it wasn't his fault though.
Yeah,
it wasn't his fault, but that's what he gets to hate. I think, and I don't want to compare him because he's actually Black, but you look at hip hop being like there's hip hop as a party. All across the street, there's like Pitbull and Flo Rida, right? And everyone hates Pitbull or loves Pitbull, but no one cares about Flo Rida. He does his thing because he understands, hey, you're over there, you're thinking about partying, whatever. If Macklemore was out there, it'd been fine. But he walked in there, got the game's richest prize, an album called The Heist, and disappeared. Like, hey, what? I'm like, what happened? So I don't know. But Tim's right, man. That is a hard question because for someone like me who looks like this, who talks like this, I have been disinvited to proverbial cookouts plenty of times. I've been told to put in my Black card. So I don't feel it's my case to do it, but I understand, and it's kind of topical, the past couple of weeks, we're saying, does Joe Burrow belong in the cookout? And I go, well, he has a stylist. I don't think that's what culture is. I don't think that's being tuned with the culture, but that's just me. But yeah, Cedric's right. I don't want to be the gatekeeper for that because that has its own fluid rules.
Well, it's funny because you have this going on. And then you have people like Monique, who spoke out on Netflix and was like, and chastised for it. Then you guys, like I said, then we got people like Whoopi Goldberg, who supported Jews her whole life, but says this ridiculous thing, and they're ready to cancel her. Then you have Dave Chappelle, who I just read today, 4 more Netflix specials. So he's not canceled, apparently. They tried to cancel him, but it didn't work. So, how do you, I don't know. I feel like I don't know how, all this stuff going on, swirling with our Black entertainers. I don't know what to think half the time. Do I support them because they're Black, or do I go?
No, I'm going to be very careful what I say. I don't want anyone to misconstrue this about supporting a person's perspective about Monique's background or Chappelle's background. But one of the worst things and the best things about entertainment is that businesses don't look at creativity anymore. They look at dollars and cents. So Netflix crunched a number and said, Monique, based on your last movies, this is how much we want to pay you. And she goes, I'm worth more. Can't knock her for doing that. That's why Netflix came to that. Same with Chappelle. Chappelle has content. They bought in and they said, this is how much you're worth. Now, as a customer of Netflix, you can say, I'm going to withdraw my money every month. And enough people do that, they have to act. Right. But I don't think Netflix goes in there and be like, we hail like these people. We love like making fun of these people. I don't think they look at it that way. Not defending corporations as the last thing I'm doing, especially someone self-employed. But it really is kind of like the extraction of our culture. You can talk about that, how we create culture for everyone else and we export that culture perhaps unwittingly or against our will and we're not compensated for it. That's a whole different issue. But Netflix does not try to screw over Monique to screw her over. But as far as cancellations and who's canceled and who's not, it is definitely random. It's a whirlwind. It comes down to if enough angry people are mad at once. I don't think people are more sensitive than they were before because there were book burnings before I was alive. But now you just get together on social media and find people that look and think how you think. You can mobilize a lot quicker.
And that's really what the key is. I think it's the social media, the access. And what really trips me out, man, is the fact that social media is literally this tool we have where we can interact with anyone we want in the world at any time. We're literally we're at fingertips reach with them. And people would rather use it as a means to tear somebody down instead of actually build with them. Like there's not enough bridges being built. And that's not like a knock on like whatever you consider cancel culture or stuff like that. But like there's more positive means of communication and getting your point across, I feel, in society.
It's funny. On one of my other shows, I'd said, when I was growing up, there's no social media when I was growing up, thank God. But if there was, I'm thinking, because back in the day, that's when stars were mysterious. That's when you didn't know, just think of Michael Jackson and Prince were like on Twitter every day, like you could talk to them. Like I can't even imagine. I seriously can't even imagine. Like, we have Madonna still alive, so we know she's on there. But like back in the day when she was in her heyday, I couldn't imagine of what they were saying, or Janet Jackson. Like, I'm thinking always like Jodie Watley. Like they're on social media now, kind of, but in their heydays, back when this was like when people were like there was huge stars, I couldn't imagine. Like we're so lucky in many ways that we can get a retweet every once in a while by somebody famous we like, or someone we like likes our post. You're like, so my post. I mean, I did get a little jumpy when Jodie Watley did like one of my posts. I was like, oh yeah, I'm like, really love you, girl. But I grew up with her, and it's like, and then it's just like this. She liked my post, and I was like, I just like lost it. But back in the day, we're so fortunate. We didn't. It was always around. When I was a kid, there was no MySpace. There was no. I was on an Apple IIe computer trying to type on some little tiny thing that had like 1 gigabyte or whatever on it.
You're lucky.
A floppy disk. So I mean, it's just so. I mean, I think you're right, Cedric. We're really fortunate that you can actually talk to people that you admire on a TV show with folks. Well, it's AfterBuzz TV. We're all AfterBuzz. It's AfterBuzz TV. On other programs, there was a stream, all the places that are doing this, where we actually sit and we talk with the stars and talk with people who like the same show you do. And like that was not always an option. That just really wasn't until the last like 10, 15 years. So that's how it was. Right. I mean, 2009, Twitter just started. There was Facebook. It was open like a couple of years. There was no Instagram. MySpace was on its way out. And it was like, that was it. Remember Friendster? Friendster was gone by then. It's like there was nothing else. There was message boards, television about pity, and a few of those were out there. But again, not like that. Like we have Reddit now, and all stuff. It's not like that now.
Yeah,
I think I grew up in high school at least. I grew up on AIM, and I know people use Black Planet, stuff like that. Then Facebook came around like 2005, 2006, and then it was just for college students, and it just spiraled into whatever it is now.
Yeah,
but I mean, it's wild that people see celebrities that you may admire, or you want to be critical for them, that's fine. Instead of being like, hey, what did you do to achieve your success? You'd rather be like, yo, those shoes suck. Like what do you get from that?
I agree.
I don't get what you get from that.
I agree with you. Why? And on Soap Twitter, which is bonkers, they actually will tweet at the people, at the actors, and just like accuse them of all kind of stuff. It's like they're just doing their job. Like they're not the character and they're not the producer. Like we produce our own content. You could yell at us and say, "Why'd you do that, James?" I don't believe it. But these are people who they get paid, they come in, act a scene or two, and they go home. They're not in charge of nothing. And they get yelled at because people, like you said, instead of saying, "Wow, I loved your performance today," it's like, "No, gee, your hair, those teeth." I'm like, like it's like, what do you get out of it? I don't understand. I don't get
too invested. That's why I had to pull back from some of my sports teams, because I found myself getting too invested and being too angry at the result.
Oh, really?
Ruined my day.
Okay, see. So how'd you get sucked in? You think? You're a smart guy. You're like, I'm social media. It's the social media. How'd you get sucked in?
The social media?
Yeah, you say you had to take a break. How'd you get sucked in?
I think social media just spiraled because, like, once it came around, like I said, remember when Facebook was just for college students? So really, that's how I met a lot of my friends at Arizona State and kept in touch with people from high school. So you used it for a means of that. Then it just spiraled into like, oh, you can meet people you don't know if you want to court them or whatever, stuff like that. It just became a shallow means of communication rather than having to actually go out and meet people in the physical sense. You can hide behind your screen and try to communicate that way, which I get in a certain sense. Maybe I'm old fashioned, but then like I think I didn't have Instagram till like maybe 3 years ago. So like I was slow to the Instagram game, and then I'm OG Twitter. I've had Twitter since almost maybe a year or two in the beginning. And
Me
like,
too.
that's really the only app I will never delete because.
What's funny, I remember Twitter when it was boring. Remember it was boring. They're talking about this demise. Like it's not gonna last because for a while I think it was just like porn stars and regular folks on there. It was like something really weird. Like there's nobody on there. There's nobody on there. It was like it's boring. It's like texting. What is it? What is this thing? I remember all the negative stuff. Look at it where it's now. Look where it's now. Where it's at now. I mean, it's completely
Really how I get my news, and that's I don't know if that's like a sad thing to say because I feel like watching news on television can be controversial in a sense, and they kind of feed you what they want you to see, and it's always in my experience you get more bad news than good. I feel like with Twitter I get news a lot faster, like people who are actually experiencing it in real time.
I go to news. I go to Twitter for my news. I go if there's an earthquake, I go to Twitter first. I said, did I feel an earthquake? Was that an earthquake? Like, oh, it's an earthquake. Okay, Twitter
Everybody's talking about the earthquake.
Yeah. You know, that's how I always go to Twitter. Like everybody's ready. Earthquakes. I'm always like, whatever. I was on air a couple weeks ago. There was an earthquake, and it happened while I was doing this. I was like, oh my god, it's an earthquake. That was kind of weird. After surviving a couple of the big ones, it's kind of strange. But no, I just. So are we at the point where? Are we tired of talking about blackness, or do we have to continue? Is it necessary that we have to continue because we're not there? We're not there where there is yet.
I don't think tired is the word. I guess I'm more frustrated that in my lifetime, yes, there's been a lot more progress. And we have Mr. Copeland, and we have areas. I mean, even Tiger Woods came in my lifetime, and it's cool to see examples and more things. And now there's like multiple black hockey players. I was a Caposo guy myself, but it is interesting that minorities, and especially the black minority here in this country, always has to explain our intent. I think that hasn't changed and will not change, and that's the more frustrating thing. So when it goes, hey man, how do you feel about Colin Kaepernick? And that's something that, even if I don't watch football, which of the big five, I watch football the least, but everyone had pulled me aside. Yo, Colin Kaepernick, what do you think? What do you think, brother? Speak on it. And it was like, why am I having a press conference for a entire skin tone? This is not what I had in mind. And I don't think that's going to go away. And so that's the frustrating part for sure.
I agree with that. Frustration is probably the main thing, just because, like we had talked about earlier, do you recognize your blackness all the time you go out the house? And I feel like it's sometimes kind of a full-time job where you have to, and it's frustrating that you do, because I'm not just like Cedric the black guy. I'm Cedric Welton. I like that. Cedric the black guy. I like that. Hey, Cedric. I have a soul underneath all this interior, so like I think of it that way. And like similar to Flo, I had my physical therapist ask me last week about the whole Brian Flores scandal with the coaching and his lawsuit and stuff like that. And I know it's a hot topic. I love talking about football, so I talked about it, but it's like, oh, you probably just wanted to ask me because I'm black, what's my take on it? Like, you want to know if I'm pissed off? Like, no, yes. I'm not mad. We've been knew the NFL was shitty. Like, it's just coming to light now.
But that's the thing. We black folks, you're not gonna tell black folks how bad it is or how things are. That's what they always laugh. I go, we already know. I mean, like it's some new. Did you hear about so and so? I'm like, okay. I'm like, I've known this for the last 53 years of my life. I mean, it's like it's nothing. It's nothing new for us. Like we know it's fine. Cameras are showing things, and phones are showing things, and attention's being turned on it now. It's now it's in the forefront. Most of us black folks of a certain age, we all know. I mean, how the world has worked for some. But I agree with both of you guys. Anymore. Yes, thank you. Well, I got in trouble a couple years ago, and I don't give a shit. So, but I got in trouble. I said, I don't. I said that we got to stop waiting for white folks to save us. They're not giving us the power. Why would they? And I also said the system is not broken. It's set up the way it's set. It's not broken. It's set up to work the way it's working. And a lot of folks agreed with me. A lot of folks didn't agree with me. We still got to fix it. I'm like, no, I'm not saying we don't need to fix it. Yes. esoterically, yes, we need to fix, we need to get laws and things in place, but just make no mistake, it's not broken.
Mhm.
I stand by that statement. Still, this was 2 years later. I stand by the statement. Like this, it's not broken. There are things that were set up, and some things in television. Yes, there is racism in television, folks, behind the scenes, but green is the color. That is the color they like.
For now.
If they think you can make them some money, Flobo's right about that on some level. If they think you make some money, they'll make 5, they'll do 5 Twilights if they had to. They'll also do 5 Shafts if they had to. If wherever one makes money, they're gonna go that direction.
Mhm.
But racism is still in there. There's still stuff in there.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, you're right, James. You think of the most simple thing: a line at a buffet. You guarantee someone comes in, hey man, I cut that line. I got some money for you. And if you don't got that money, back of the line. You gotta wait to have that. You know what I mean? And that's kind of thing, because then you go to the whole institutional thing. Is we don't have resources to start off with. We're never financially empowered. We can't even get in that money game. More effort on our end to get in that money game. What's going on? Yeah, you got me started now. You got me all started, James. I'm all hot and bothered. I'm all hot and bothered.
Well, Tony JC says something in chat. He says it should be our responsibility to explain our blackness and why things are wrong. I get that on some low too, and I'm not the black voice of America all the time. I'm not this voice of America, I'm not that voice of America. I'm very othered in many ways. I'm not that othered voice for everything either. But there's sometimes I pick and choose when I feel like I need to say something. I do. I mean, I
agree with that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say it is our responsibility. We have this like scarlet letter, if you would, that we carry every single day. But I think the point is, it's we already know it's a full-time job, but it's exhausting because you also have other aspirations and things that you want to do. It's not my job to explain common sense to somebody that doesn't understand it or refuses to understand what I'm saying. If that's a non-person of color, I would say that you can't keep leading the horse to water if it won't drink. No matter how many times I explain it, if they just refuse to get it, eventually I got to keep carrying on with my life.
Right there.
Now, Seth said something earlier that I want to talk about a little bit as we move along here. We all have friends in different colors. I have family members of different colors. I have grandkids in different colors now. But no, we have people of different colors around us. We're not. I know some folks who are. I mean, I'm pretty militantly black in many ways, but I have friends who are. All I talk to are black folks. And a certain type of black folk. And that's all I talk to. Whether it's like the churchgoers, it's all just the church people, or it's all the gangbang, or it's all that. But I think the 3 of us are pretty much, we're open to friendships with anybody, as long as you choose to respect or whatever. So and also you said something earlier, said that like too, I'm not just black. I mean, whatever that means. I'm black, but I'm also, I like this, I like to skate, I like to do this over here. I mean, there's things like this. I have interests that are beyond race and racial background. I'm an organizer. Being an organizer has nothing to do with race. Anybody can organize, right? I mean, nobody has to. I like riding horses. I had to tell people there are rodeos in Compton. There are black folks who ride horses. There are black cowboys who are like, you ride horses? I'm like,
I've been there. Yeah,
I've been there. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. I love riding horses, but that's not it's a person thing. You can ride a horse. So anyway, how do you guys? It's almost like a horse.
No, you never said that before. I'm knowing for years. You never mentioned you like riding horses.
Oh no, I talk about all the time. Maybe not with you, but I have. I can actually point to you to about 8 or 9.
Retcon.
I can tell you. I got about 8 or 9 videos over the years. I can tell you who I talk about horses with. I had a recent conversation with a girl about horses recently.
I mean, props to your brother, but I had no idea.
I know. That's a SoCal thing. I remember going to the Black Rodeo.
Yes,
as a kid.
Yeah, it's great. And also Hollywood Park. I'm here in Inglewood. When I was a kid, when it was actual Hollywood Park, a race park, I used to meet the jockeys in the morning and get to rest the horses and stuff. I have a horse. I love horse. I like farm. I grew up with farm people, so it's kind of helping. But anyway, so my question actually is for you guys: how do you maintain being open to the world when they try to make you just black?
I like that question because I don't know. I like it as a interesting challenge because you can't put me in a box. I refuse to be put in a box in any arena. Like, I like sports. I like fitness. Some people see me in like wrestling. They're like, no way. Like, yeah, I like wrestling. I have action figures. I also like Marvel and comic books. So like, I think just being more openly outward with like the things you like, especially because like we live in a society where people are going to criticize you one way or another, and like you have to just adapt to it. So like nobody's going to tell me why I should or shouldn't like what I like, So I like the challenge of making sure like you can't fit me in a box. You might see me listening to gangster rap one day, but then you also might hear me listen to Pocket Full of Sunshine by Natasha Bedingfield. It's just what mood I'm in. Whatever mood I'm in. But you can't box me because I'm an individual as well.
See, I like that. I'm the same way you are. Everybody knows I'm that way. Flobo.
I think maybe my dark origin is this: being growing up and looking this way, but still having my kinfolk reject me on some level because I was into Archie comics and I was into the certain things. And I talked a certain way and I went home at a certain time. My parents are super strict. I'm not saying I've shunned, but it's more like I don't have to perform for anyone or any kind of race. There's no award for being the most blackest person in the room. So to such a point, yeah, wow, it's great. So to such a point, yeah, just do what you like, man, and do what you like, and hopefully you lead by example. Like, and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but when I started doing Draped in Gold, which is the wrestling podcast, we covered NXT and NXT UK. I can't do that. Also, all these biceps, Cedric, you're making me look bad.
Right. It's like, what? My back?
I can't do this.
Okay.
People came out the woodwork from the United Kingdom and go, "I can't believe you're doing this show at this time. And you're into it." Usually, it's like white people are into British style wrestling, even though it's WWE owned. And it was like, no, I like this. I'm going to do this. And I guess for me doing it, I became leading by example. A couple episodes of New Amsterdam Radio, another plug. I had some black baseball players or black baseball coaches, and they go, "Hey, do you know?" Like I said, Rob Parker. I'm like, at the time I didn't. And I hooked up with Rock Parker, like, "Yo, how's it going, Mr. Parker?" He's like, "Oh, you love what you're doing." And it was like, we were connected with people because we like what we like. And if people see us liking what we like, then we're already leading by example.
The chat room likes Cedric's arms. So there you go. That's chat room.
Dude, I know. I'm trying to keep up. I said it in the chat.
Yeah. They like your arms. Okay, so
that wasn't a flex. I really can't pat my back like.
It's all. Oh, what? Yeah.
Where's my kettlebell? I need to
go get stretched.
That's a whole other discussion. Obviously, one day about our own community and how we treat each other, the whole colorism, everything. Go ahead, Cedric.
Can I say something? Because Flo mentioned Rob, and we talked about being in these spaces because of things you love. What I've learned about Rob as a mentor these past few years, Rob is the baseball guy. He loves baseball so much. He's the only Black sports writer that gets a vote for the Hall of Fame. So that speaks to being in a lane that you want to be in, regardless of the obstacles that you want to be in. Don't allow anything to box you because you identify as Black. Like what you like.
I talked to Byron Allen, so at the Emmys a couple of years ago, and this is a dude that I grew up with him on a show called Real People. He was a host, and with these two white people, with John Davidson and this other girl. But now, if you don't know, you need to know. He is one of the top producers of TV entertainment. And all the late nights. It may not be all the greatest, but it's something. But he produces all this entertainment. I'm shady. I can't help it. But he does all this entertainment, but mostly Black folks, but also comedians and things. And he has all this late night entertainment, but it's in syndication. And he's rich. He's one of the richest people in America in entertainment. And I got to talk to him, and he was super nice to me. And I asked him, I think I'll start my own network. What should I do? And he said, "You're Black. You need to start it."
I have a question about Byron Allen. I'm not sure if you brought this up. Does it bother him, or do you know if it bothers him that people? He has all this money and all these businesses. Is he say former comedian Byron Allen? Like, is it weird?
Well, he told me once. He goes, "I don't get the respect that a lot of like a Tyler Perry does on some level, or with all these other, TV One, all these other places that have like a BET that have these executives. My girl Tasha Winton Griggs who runs TV One. They all get more. They get for some reason because it's higher brow entertainment or whatever it is. They have other backing. He does everything himself. He's one of those self-made people who started from scratch. But he's so smart. He knows the business. He knows that he may be referred to as, like I said, real people comedian Byron Allen. I mean, he does it, but he's like, he told me, he goes, I go home to a nice big house and he counts his checks. So I said, you know what? I was like, you win. I mean, that goes back to what you guys both were saying about people, fuck what people think about you. You just gotta go, just whatever, they're gonna think whatever. You're gonna get it from wherever.
I can't hear you over this direct deposit.
Yeah, okay. He's like Byron Allen and like Tyler Perry. You can talk all you want about them, but they're cashing them checks and they're doing just fine. They're not worried about you people. They're doing just fine. And so, but my time, because he was like, so you really know who I am? I go, yeah. I'm also a Black businessman, and so that's what we need more of to share. And hopefully, shows like I do like this, I try to show people that we're not a monolith. We're not just these certain type of people, but we are all over the place, and we're everything. We're everything that every other race is. Basically, it's the same. Just that we have maybe a different flavor to us on some level, but we have all these things that I always say that there's a lot of sameness with everybody. There's like 5 or 6 things we all want, just about. And maybe you want, not in this particular order, but it's like we want good food, we want good sex, we want good friendships, we want love on some level, we want peace, we want good entertainment. It's like just things that I think a good job that we love doing. That's some shitty job that we have to take. And there's certain things that we all want them, no matter what race you are, and Black folks are the same. We're not. Stop putting us as different. Like we are. You can see our color, don't not see it, but don't hold us back by it. And so when people always tell me, James, I don't think of you as Black, I go, I don't mind don't think of me as Black. If you think Black is bad, then I do mind. I say it all the time. If you think Black is bad, then we have a problem. But if you think Black is good, then see me as Black. Then there's no reason to see you. See me as whatever that is. Just don't try to hold me down. So that's always my message to everybody, because we're all trying to swim upstream and make something of ourselves, right? Make a life. All 3 of us are trying to do that. I mean, that's not aimed with anybody else.
I think a beautiful quote I heard. I don't know where I heard it though. It was just like, it's about kindness, but it's like we're all just holding each other's hands until we eventually get home.
Ooh, I like that. And that's where I guess we'll end the show right there. That's a good right there. That's a good one.
No. You can't come in here with your dope arms and your fantastic hairline, dropping signs, and now leaving the. No, I can't stand it. It's messed up, man. No, I don't like it.
I like that. I'm like that's the end of the show, bitches. I got nothing to say after that. I'm like, that was good. See, he's the quiet one. He's the closer. He's the closer. Cedric is the answer. That's it. That's his Instagram. So this shirt, I'll make sure this shirt, Black Don't Crack. Her name is Deborah Hubbard, and she started out I call it the Fox Hills Mall. I don't care. It's called Westfield, whatever. Fuck. It's the Fox Hills Mall. She started out in a little kiosk, and this chick was in her 50s when she started, and now Black Don't Crack is worldwide. Check her out, blackdon'tcrack.com, Black Don't Crack on all social media platforms. And her story, I've been friends with her for 6 years. I've done shows with her here on JLJ Media. You can check out the Breaking Into You, Extra Connections, where her story is so inspiring. And it's about Black not cracking. Homegirl happily will tell you she's in her mid to late 60s and look like she's younger than all of us. So clearly she had the fountain of youth, and I don't know what's going on, but her story's wonderful. So it's a message to everybody. You start whenever. And I started my life in the 40s. I'm 53 years old, so I know you can start whenever you want to. So thank you guys for being on, of course, and doing this with me. And I appreciate you both. You both young Black men. I appreciate that very much. And you guys being here, just talking about this little piece. Hopefully someone will see this and it will change their lives for the better. So, tell me where they can find you if they want to find you on social media and say anything else to you.
Oh man, where am I these days? I'm kind of washed.
Don't watch on social. Trade them.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Says the Answer. That is also I wasn't saying it's also my Snapchat. Don't use that though. You can also find me on Twitter at Says. That's CEDD_says. I post content every now and then. We Got Next, the podcast you can find on all your major streaming networks. We'll be moving to a different platform here soon, but we do have content up right now. Also, I write for Daily DDT and a few other sites. My hands a little bit everywhere, but if you look at my link tree on both of my social medias, you'll see some of my work.
Breaking news, new network for We Got Next?
Yeah, man. Blue Wire Hustle is currently no more. And actually next week, I want to say. So we're going to jump to another hosting service.
Oh, wow. Congratulations on the training, brother, for sure.
Yeah.
And Flobo Boyce.
Oh yes, sorry, brother. I was into Cedric's whole thing.
Had your own conversation. I'm
I
like,
was like,
hi,
wow,
we're on the
okay.
air.
I was like, yo,
We're still on the air.
I'm trying to get myself a guest spot. All right. Flowbeal.com is the website. Yeah, let's come through. And newamsterdam.com, KNEW Amsterdam.com. That's the home for all the show that I host. And if you guys want to buy a book, man, support the homie. Graduation Day, Life Lessons from the Real World is available now on Amazon. My first ever nonfiction book. That's how it is. And don't forget, By the Ounce, my first ever book back in 2008, I believe. Still, that was definitely 100 pounds ago.
Baby.
And a
baby.
That's awful.
Baby.
Also available on Amazon, baby.
I was sitting right here, so I had to show it. Like, I have to show it. It was sitting right here. I bought it, folks. He didn't buy it for I bought it. I'm supporting the homie.
Full price.
And of course, you can follow me where all James Lott Jr. is sold at James Lott Jr. on all social media platforms. That is, I have books, I have music, I have audio dramas, I have audio comedies, I have podcasts, I have a network, JLJ Media. I'm on every single streaming audio service you can think of. Type in JLJ Media, you'll find all my shows. And here on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell, hit everything, just hit it. Be kind, rewind. Everybody, thank you for watching the show. Next week is the ladies. So we're going to talk to the ladies next week. So stay tuned for that next week. Please be kind to each other and just don't start any shit. See you next time.